Hi, my name is Margaret. I'm here with Mr. Ben Lessing, CEO of Community Care Alliance. It is Thursday, October 5th, 2017, and we're going to record Mr. Lessing's Woonsocket life. So, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you for participating in our project.
Absolutely.
The first question I'm going to ask you is to tell us about a favorite memory you have of Woonsocket.
Well, I have a few favorite memories of Woonsocket, but one of the most favorite is that I came back to Woonsocket in 2000 to be the Executive Director of Family Resources Community Action. I had previously worked in the city from 1981 to 1992 and had an opportunity to come back, and I kind of grabbed it. In that organization, as in this organization, one of the things that we were working on was homelessness. And so several years prior to my coming to the agency had developed something called Shelter Walk, which was a fundraiser, but also a consciousness raiser for to really promote, services for the homeless and raise funds for the homeless and so forth. When I got here in 2000, we did Shelter Walk. It was one of the first things I did. I had been here for like 2 months, and I think we had probably 50 people. Over the years, that's grown to over 400 people. And I think the best thing about it is that it just brings all kinds of folks to the community, from the community to the walk, who really are concerned about the issue and who care about people living in poverty. It's not unusual for the mayor to attend. It's not unusual for congressmen to attend, and it's just a really meaningful way of really trying to build consciousness about homelessness, which unfortunately continues to be quite a significant issue, not only in Rhode Island but across the country. So I think I just think the community aspect of it and people coming together, has been a very pleasant memory for me.
Thank you. Now, you're prominent here. You don't reside in Woonsocket, but you're here a lot as CEO of Community Care Alliance. What do you like about the Woonsocket community?
I like that it is a community. Before I came back to Woonsocket, I worked in Boston for several years. And I'm a social worker by training and had been working in a large social service organization, actually a statewide social service organization in Boston. And one of the things that I missed was being in the community, interacting with people, not only in terms of addressing their needs, but just the diversity of people in the community. One of the great things about Woonsocket is that this is a community that works, even when it's sort of down on its heels. People come together, and from a social service perspective, I saw that very early on, that we were, we may have been poor in funds, but we were rich in collaboration. And there are very few places that you see that. There are very few places that you see community organizations coming together with churches, with businesses, with civic organizations, and so forth. And that's part of the DNA here in Woonsocket, and it's one of the things that really makes it an attractive place to work, and it's been, the biggest part of my career.
Do you see challenges in Woonsocket?
Sure, there are significant challenges in Woonsocket, and I think a lot of those challenges are a direct result of the loss of industry and manufacturing that's occurred over several decades. There's a significant level of intergenerational poverty here. About 35% of children under age 5 live in poverty, some in deep poverty, meaning that families are residing on $9,000 a year or less. We see domestic violence, we see lots of addiction, we see lots of mental health concerns. Woonsocket, unfortunately, has the highest rate per capita of child abuse and neglect in the state. So yeah, there are significant issues here, and it's been one of the reasons. It's been a reason that I've remained here. I feel as if this is a place where I can make a contribution, and I can put my training and skills to good use. There are certainly other places that I could have gone and probably made a lot more money, but I always felt an allegiance to this city and to the people here, and continue to.
If you could change or improve something about Woonsocket today, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think one thing that needs to change is that there has unfortunately been a narrative here that sometimes the poor people living in poverty really are, they create their own poverty. It's their choices. It's part of who they are, and so forth. And I think that doesn't necessarily solve problems. First of all, I think that there's tons of research and tons of data to refute that. And I think that narrative really needs to change, because I don't think that it's fair. I don't think it's fair to people who are really, that we see every day, who are trying to climb out of poverty, who are trying to do the best they can for their kids, who are trying to become employed, who are trying to find permanent housing, who are trying to keep their kids safe, and so forth. Poverty is something that's man-made, as far as I'm concerned, and as Nelson Mandela would say, it's something man-made. It's something that we can also undo, and I don't think that we really work on that enough. And I think that it doesn't help, when we look down upon poor people and people living in poverty. I think the other thing that needs to happen here is that there really needs to be, and if there is, I'm not aware of it, but there needs to be more of a concerted effort in terms of bringing new business, new kinds of manufacturing, and so forth into the city. I have not seen lots of evidence of that. I have heard and had a little bit of experience with, for instance, the local zoning committee, and have really seen sort of a reluctance to, do what's necessary in terms of bringing business, and particularly manufacturing into Woonsocket. One of the programs that we operate here is an employment and training program for both adults and youth. And one of the things that we've been able to do is to assist youth, usually around 18 to 20 years old, in connecting with Electric Boat in Groton. And we've had several kids who have started out with internships there and have moved on to jobs, and have moved on to jobs in the trades and so forth, and have ended up, we've actually helped them relocate in order to be closer to their work. But they want to stay here, and they want to work, And, you know, I have not seen many kids or adults with the right guidance and the right support be able to do that. But we don't have many options here in the city, and I think that we need to be working on more. And one of our philosophies here is that, you know, employment is important. We're not about just sort of handing things out. First of all, we don't have a lot to hand out, but we're really about trying to help people get to a level of self-sufficiency that will carry them through life. And but you need the resources to be able to. You need the resources to be able to do that in terms of jobs, and in terms of opportunity, in terms of training, in terms of education, and so forth. I think that if we had more of that, we would see, you know, fewer of the sorts of social problems that we see here. I think a lot of what we see, whether it's around child abuse and neglect or addiction or mental health concerns and so forth, is really a direct result of you know, people living in significant poverty. And where kids are concerned, if kids don't see that they have opportunities, if they don't see that they have a path forward, or a path out of, you know, poverty, if you will, they begin to get discouraged, and that's when we see problems.
Thank you.